Ever get that feeling where you're like, I really want to understand this?
Yeah.
Like really grasp something without getting totally bogged down.
Yeah, definitely that desire for like a deep dive, right?
Exactly. So that's kind of what we're doing today, taking a closer look at this powerful idea of, well, imperturbability.
Ooh, imperturbability. I like that.
Right. And we've got some really interesting sources to help us unpack it. We're talking a Medium article that dives into like 20 ways to become unstoppable in life.
Okay. Practical advice. Nice.
Then there's this piece from the Aikido Center of Los Angeles, which, you think martial arts, you think discipline and focus, right?
Oh, for sure. That connection to like inner strength and composure totally makes sense.
Totally. And then, of course, we got to bring in the good old dictionary, Merriam-Webster's thesaurus and the Cambridge Dictionary. Got to make sure we're all on the same page with the actual meaning.
Love it when we get to play with words, those subtle shades of meaning.
Right. So basically, what we're trying to do in this deep dive is not just define what it means to be imperturbable.
Yeah, not just a dictionary definition.
But also, like, where does this idea come from? What's the history? And then the big one, how can we actually cultivate this quality in our own lives?
That's the real gold, right? Turning knowledge into action.
100%. So first things first, let's get clear on what imperturbable actually means.
Get me with it.
All right, so Merriam-Webster defines it as not easily panicked or upset, which, okay, fair enough. But they give this example that's like, the chef was absolutely imperturbable even when the kitchen caught on fire.
Whoa, okay, that's next level chill.
Right. Talk about a high-pressure situation. What do you think? Does that example really capture the essence of imperturbable for you?
I think it highlights that deep resistance.
Yeah.
Right? Like not just a minor inconvenience, a full-blown crisis, and they're still steady, not letting it phase them.
I like that steady, unfazed. It's like the world can be falling apart, but they're just like handling it.
Yeah, and the Cambridge Dictionary echoes that, defining it formally as always staying calm and controlled, even in difficult situations that would cause other people to worry. And they throw in this great synonym, unflappable.
Unflappable. I love that word.
It's so visually evocative, right?
Yeah.
Like nothing can ruffle their feathers.
Totally. And even the Cambridge Academic Content Dictionary chimes in, saying it's staying calm and controlled despite problems or difficulties. Their example is, he was imperturbable in a crisis.
So the common thread is this rock-solid composure, especially when things go haywire. Those moments that would send most of us spiraling.
It's like that inner strength that lets you stay grounded no matter what's happening externally.
Right. And to really get a feel for the depth of the word, it helps to dig into those synonyms. Like Merriam-Webster's thesaurus gives us this whole cluster of related words, each with its own flavor. You've got nonchalant, which can be a bit like whatever's
Oh, a little detached, maybe.
Yeah. Then you have calm and serene, which are more about that absence of inner turmoil, peaceful.
But then you get into words like unflappable and composed, which I think really bring in that element of self-mastery.
It's not just that you happen to be feeling chill. It's that you're actively choosing to maintain control.
It's intentional, right?
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how some of these synonyms can actually point to different underlying states. Like someone who's nonchalant might genuinely not care about the situation.
Just completely indifferent.
But an imperturbable person, they're probably deeply aware of what's happening, but they're making a conscious choice not to let it rattle them.
So their calmness is coming from this place of inner strength, not just indifference. That's an important distinction.
Totally. And then the list just keeps going. You've got unshakable, nerveless, cool, collected.
Like a whole arsenal of composure.
Right. And then there's unruffled, which I think paints this beautiful picture of someone gracefully navigating chaos,
It's like they have this invisible shield that deflects all the drama.
And when you look at all those synonyms together, you start to really grasp the depth of imperturbable. Like Merriam-Webster themselves point out, while all these words relate to a lack of agitation, imperturbable specifically implies this coolness, this assurance, even under severe provocation.
So it's not just about being calm on a random Tuesday afternoon. It's about staying steady when the pressure is on.
Exactly. And this brings us to a really intriguing perspective from the Aikido Center of Los Angeles article. They quote Robert Louis Stevenson, who says, "An imperturbable demeanor comes from perfect patience. Quiet minds cannot be perplexed or frightened, but go on in fortune or misfortune at their own private pace, like a clock during a thunderstorm."
Oh, I love that imagery. The clock just ticking away, completely unbothered by the storm raging outside.
Right. What do you think about that analogy? Does it resonate with you?
For me, it speaks to this sense of having an inner rhythm, this internal stability that isn't dependent on what's happening around you.
Like a deep-rooted sense of peace that can't be shaken by external circumstances.
And that immediately makes me think about mental focus, which the Aikido article goes into.
Oh yeah, how does that tie in?
So they explain how in Aikido there's this concept of tsuki, which refers to openings or vulnerabilities.
Okay, so weak points.
Exactly. And for beginners, these tsukis are experienced both physically and mentally. But as you become more experienced, the article says tsuki basically becomes a lack of mental focus.
So it's almost like the real vulnerability isn't a physical gap, but a mind that's not fully present, fully engaged.
That's a powerful idea. And they connect this to the Zen concept of mindfulness being completely in the moment without judgment.
Ah, that makes sense.
And they even bring in the swordsmanship term, tsukimaganai, which translates to have no openings whatsoever.
So it's not just about physical defense. It's about this complete mental presence that leaves no room for distraction.
Like you're so focused, so aware that nothing can catch you off guard.
Which, when you think about it, is a huge part of being imperturbable.
Absolutely. And then they go even deeper, talking about the Aikido principle of not initiating attack, but instead being totally mindfully present, ready to respond. And this leads to these higher level concepts in swordsmanship sen no sen and in Aikido sen sen no sen.
Okay, now we're getting into some seriously advanced stuff. Can you break those down a little?
Sure. So in swordsmanship, sen no sen is about anticipating your opponent's move and countering it before they can even fully execute it.
So it's about being one step ahead, reading their intentions.
Exactly. It requires this incredible awareness and the ability to pick up on subtle cues. And Sen no Sen in Aikido takes this to a whole other level.
Like even more intuitive.
Yeah, it's often described as this almost preemptive harmony where you're not even consciously reacting. You're already in control before the opponent's move even fully materializes.
Whoa, that sounds like some next level mastery.
Right. And the article quotes O-sensei, the founder of Aikido, who says, "If I were to try to verbalize it, I would say that we control our opponent without trying to control them. That is the state of continuous victory. There isn't any question of winning over or losing to an opponent. In this sense, there is no opponent in Aikido. Even if we have an opponent, they become a part of us, a partner we control only."
Wow, that's a pretty profound way of looking at conflict.
It really is. It's like instead of fighting against something, you're integrating it, absorbing it.
And in that state of complete inner control, it becomes practically impossible to be truly perturbed.
It's like you found the center of gravity that can't be knocked off balance. And the Aikido article, at the time it was written, even connected this idea to the pandemic, saying it was like an opponent that demanded that same kind of calmness and mindfulness to find a way forward.
I love that it shows how these principles that come from martial arts philosophy can be applied to all sorts of challenges.
Totally. It highlights that imperturbability isn't just some lofty ideal. It's a very practical way of dealing with adversity.
So how do we actually cultivate this quality in our own lives?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right? And while the Aikido piece gives us some philosophical grounding, the 20 Ways to Become Unstoppable article on Medium has some more, tangible advice.
All right, give me some of those life hacks for inner peace.
Okay, so one of the first things they recommend is developing a consistent morning routine.
I can see how that could set you up for success, but how does that translate to being more imperturbable?
Well, think about it. Your morning sets the tone for your whole day. If you start your day with intention, doing things that energize you and align with your goals, whether that's exercise, meditation, journaling, or just reading something inspiring, you're basically building a foundation of calm and focus.
So you're proactively creating that inner peace before the day even really gets going.
Exactly. Then they talk about self-care, which might seem obvious, but they emphasize it for a reason. Why do you think taking care of ourselves is so crucial for staying calm under pressure?
Well, self-care is all about replenishing your resources, right? Like physically, mentally, emotionally. If you're running on empty, of course you're going to be more easily agitated and less able to handle stress.
It's like trying to fight a battle when you haven't slept or eaten. You're going to lose.
Exactly. So by prioritizing things that help you recharge, whether that's spending time in nature, doing a hobby, connecting with loved ones, or simply getting enough sleep, you're building this buffer against the things that might throw you off balance.
It's like building up your reserves of inner strength. Another thing they highlight is the importance of embracing failure as a learning opportunity. How do you think shifting our perspective on setbacks can help us become more imperturbable?
When you see failure not as this catastrophic end, but as a chance to learn and grow, it takes a lot of the emotional sting out of it, right?
So you're less likely to freak out when things don't go according to plan.
Exactly. You can see it as a natural part of the process and stay in that problem-solving mode, which is a huge part of imperturbability.
Staying level-headed instead of getting swept away by emotion. And then there's gratitude. They talk about actively cultivating a sense of gratitude. How does that tie in?
Gratitude is powerful because it shifts your focus, right? Instead of dwelling on what you lack or what's going wrong, you're deliberately focusing on the good things in your life.
It's like a mental reset button.
Yeah. And when you're in that state of appreciation, you're less likely to be bothered by little annoyances or setbacks. It's like this foundation of contentment that makes you more resilient.
It makes a lot of sense. They also talk about the importance of having a strong support network. How do the people we surround ourselves with influence our ability to stay calm and grounded?
Having a tribe of supportive, positive people in your corner makes a huge difference, like this built-in buffer against stress and isolation.
Because when you know you have people you can rely on, you feel less alone in facing challenges.
And it's not just about practical support. It's about having those people who can offer encouragement, perspective, and maybe even a little tough love when you need it.
They can help you stay on track and remind you of your strengths. Of course, no conversation about cultivating inner peace would be complete without mentioning mindfulness and meditation.
Right. Those are like the classic tools for calming the mind.
And for good reason. They're all about training your attention and becoming more aware of your thoughts and emotions without judgment.
So you can choose how you respond to situations instead of just reacting impulsively.
Exactly. Regular mindfulness practice can really help you stay centered and focused, even in the middle of chaos.
It's like building that mental muscle of equanimity.
Another thing they emphasize is getting enough sleep, which might seem basic, but we all know how cranky and easily agitated we can get when we're sleep deprived.
No one's at their best when they're running on fumes.
And the article makes the point that when you're well rested, you're simply better equipped to handle stress, think clearly, and maintain your composure.
It's like giving your brain and body the downtime they need to recharge and reset.
And then there's this very modern piece of advice, minimizing phone notifications.
Oh, that's a good one. Does that really make a difference?
I think so. Every notification is like a little tug on your attention, pulling you out of the present moment. And over time, those constant interruptions can create this low-grade anxiety that makes it hard to stay focused and peaceful.
So by reducing those distractions, you're essentially reclaiming your attention and creating more mental space for calm.
And last but not least, they have this suggestion that's a little more unconventional to like the comments of trolls online.
Whoa, that's an interesting one.
It is. It's basically about not letting negativity get under your skin, not engaging in pointless arguments.
So it's a way of choosing not to be perturbed by people who are trying to provoke a reaction.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's clear that imperturbability is much more than just being passively calm, right?
It's this active, dynamic quality, this inner resilience that's built on self-awareness, mental focus, and a balanced way of approaching challenges.
And it's something that we can cultivate through conscious effort, through practices that strengthen our inner resources.
It's like a muscle that we can train, getting stronger over time.
So, thinking back on everything we've discussed, consider a recent situation where you felt your composure tested. How might some of these approaches have helped you navigate that situation with a little more of that clock in the thunderstorm energy?
That's a great question to ponder. It's all about finding those tools and practices that resonate with you and incorporating them into your life bit by bit.
And in doing so, we can all move through the world with a little more grace, a little more resilience, and a little more imperturbability.
Cheers to that.